Greetings once again from Planet Sofa Broker. This is podcast number 4 in this epic series.
Where have we been?
Where have we been?
Yeah.
Actually, well, welcome everyone, and thanks for interrupting, Daniel.
That's okay.
You interjected. That's an old one. So actually, I was going to say, because this microphone, this orange microphone...
Is it orange? I'm colourblind.
Yeah,
sorry, I couldn't tell.
That has made me think of something. It's piqued a question I would like to ask you about what's been happening in the last couple of weeks whilst we've been dithering. And the orange is making me think, how's your transition from 4 wheels to 2 wheels going?
It's always been and is going fine.
Yeah?
And are you going to mention my orangeness?
I'm going to mention that the orange made me think of the black and orange beast that is currently parked outside there.
Well, one of the things we can do when we're in real estate,
yes,
is we can work really hard in a clever way. Mm-hmm. Right? That doesn't mean you got to go out and do 60 hours a week or do 10 hours a day on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, the people that are doing that, good luck to them, but they're clearly insane. Right, because there's people.
Wait. People that work hard are insane.
But yeah, because they're not working smarter. Because I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. So, just bought a new motorbike, right?
What kind?
It's a Street Bob,
made by
Harley Davidson.
Does that make you kind of midlife crisis material? I thought I was.
No, because it's a Street Bob, which means it's an 1800cc badass bike, right? With more torque.
I rest my case.
Yeah, okay. It might be a bit of a midlife crisis.
It's beautiful. It is a stunning bike. I'll give you that.
I've always had bikes, but this brings me to all this, right? So,
hold on, very quickly. Whilst you're riding great bikes, I am limping around London because of a motorcycle accident. So, be careful. Ride smart. And talking about smart, carry on.
I forget.
Genius segue.
I don't think you've mentioned your foot enough over the last 2 or 3
I don't need to, because I've been limping like the geezer at the end of The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, that is a great film. Who was it in that film?
We don't talk. I don't think we're allowed to talk about.
Okay, so we're not allowed to talk about films. So, what am I talking about? Where was I before Solly so rudely interrupted me and I was dreaming about more Harleys and fast bikes?
Interject.
Because all bikes are cool. Even Honda C50s and 90s that we had back in the day. So, why do we work smarter? So, one of the ways that we've definitely learned to work smarter is, okay, so you get a bike and you're spending some time riding around on your bike. But 50% of your mind is never switched off to money and real estate deals, right? Mm-hmm. The lifeblood of everything we want to do, whether it's you getting a new Porsche or, deciding that you want to get a crazy looking, what was I going to say? Bugatti.
I didn't. I didn't say Bugatti.
I've been off. But deciding anything like it's, we're always obsessed with the next things that we want to do and get involved in, and that's deals. And deals are a basis of making money. They come from money, and deals become addictive. You're addicted to deals, right? Like, you've done another deal, Dan. I've done another deal. You tell everyone, right?
It's the best feeling, right?
Yeah.
Getting to the point. I think the best thing about our industry is the way we do it, is that we are there from the start, i.e. prospecting, finding people. We're lucky we get referrals, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and we're going to talk about the amazing thing we're going to list on Monday, where you were part of the process, and then I finished it off, ... Teamwork, co-broking. Carry on.
So we're allowed to, because of what we're doing, to get involved with the situations where we can make deals, and that means making money, right? And we become addicted to deals. Ever since you was a kid and I was a kid, no matter what we're doing, and probably people that are listening, they're probably doing stuff now. They're probably doing things like this on YouTube, or they're out and about and they're doing stuff on their PCs, or is it computers we say now, and doing stuff. I've even seen people watching people play Minecraft, and it's become a thing.
Okay,
right?
What is that all about? Yeah. I mean, that's a bit like someone being stupid enough to watch 2 people talking into a microphone.
It's now becoming where we're evolving and we're moving into, right? So people are now watching virtual sports, right? And that's becoming a big thing. And, you know, no matter what we think about it, it's happening, okay? And it's a big thing, and there's money in it. And it shows that there's money in everything. So deciding to point our decision towards real estate naturally means there's going to be money in real estate. Because I just said there's money in everything. So you can get money from real estate. And that leads me into getting the latest bike that I got. So I went and got a Harley. Yeah. When I'm out and about on a bike, there's certain places you can go, other bikes are meeting up. You can have a tea or a coffee. And you talk about bikes, right? Because you're excited and you're really enthusiastic and everyone wants to talk about their bike. And one of the things they will always say to you is, what do you do?
This is networking.
This is where we never stop.
Yeah.
This is where I say, you know, my name's Daniel. Nice to meet you. Fantastic bike you got. Yeah, I'm into real estate. You know, I help people buy and sell properties. Is that a situation you've ever found yourself in?
So you're always not pitching, but you're
explaining.
Explaining, networking. So that's interesting, actually. So, and I'm the same, because you know, if you've been in this industry as long as we have, yawn, I know, old, whatever, you find yourself in situations whereby you don't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
And you just are always networking. We go. I think, did we mention one of the podcasts about Eddie in New York and the waitress? And have you ever considered? And it's the same with you. And what I was going to ask you actually is, so if you're out and about, like talking to someone in the pub about what you do is talking to someone in the pub about what you do. How do when you're out with a biking fraternity, how do they react to you saying in real estate compared to, say, if you were, I don't know, in a posh restaurant and you were talking to a bunch of people? I mean, what's it like?
It's weird. I mean, you know, people that, you know, the hairy biker image is dead, right? I'm sure it still exists out there, and I've been riding bikes forever. But at the moment, there's a massive movement towards, you know, the Shoreditch crowd, right? And the sort of bikes that they want to be riding, the Triumphs out there. You know, these guys are now getting it, they're spending money on it, they've got the cash to. So actually now, them sort of bikes that we're going out and we're seeing and we're meeting, Harleys, Triumphs, whatever, they're pretty expensive machines. So the people that own them by default probably have properties that they want to buy or sell, that they're living in at least, because a very few of them I've seen sleeping under a bush in a tent.
Yeah, and and that's kind of bike also you're not going to keep on the road.
Yeah.
You know, we've discussed my problems about getting a bike. My beautiful house in Greenwich, which just doesn't happen to have a garage. So I've got nowhere to keep a bike.
So that's interesting. So, and that's interesting because I have an avenue to explore two things. One, love being out on my bikes. Two, love talking to people, right? You got to love people, guys.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Rule one, you've got to love people. You can learn to love people as well. So don't worry if you're starting this off by kind of not liking everybody.
Yeah.
You can learn to. By having an example here, the hook is the way in is the bike. That's how
so true.
People talk to me.
And that's the thing. You remember when Bianca came over and chatted to the group a few months ago from New York, and she talked about, you know, what she calls having an and.
Yeah.
And I think that's because it makes you relatable. So when you are out and about with your bike guys, you're relatable. So the fact that you then talk about real estate, they're going to think, hold on, this guy likes bikes and I'm thinking of selling my property, or I might want to buy a property, or my son's, you know, whatever it might be. Suddenly, you know, that thing that makes you relatable, that thing that we talked about, you know, when you go in someone's house and you've got to talk about anything else other than real estate to warm them up and get to that point where you're closer to becoming a friend, because friend trust, you know, friends equals trust equals walking out the door with the keys, all the stuff we talk about in the academy. So just by being with a bunch of bikers who are riding certain types of bikes that maybe an older biker would ride, that puts you in amongst homeowners. Right there in amongst homeowners. I mean, and this is why when I do my Instagram feeds, every now and then I flash up a picture of a bike on there. Every now and then.
Yeah,
are you in real estate?
Yeah. And you know, and also, by the way, you know, I've got 1,000cc other bike that there is younger guys and girls out there that are rich and dealing with money, and you know, we talk to everybody. Okay, so and part of talking to everybody is you're honing your craft regardless of what their position in life is, regardless of whether or not they're a homeowner now, regardless of whether or not they live with their mum and dad, you know, whatever they are, you're honing your craft. And this is why I said you need to talk to everyone, and you can learn to talk to everybody.
Yep.
And you do that just by speaking. Sully, right? How many times have we said to people, just speak?
It's so important because actually, and you know, I think, was it the first podcast we did? We talked about how we got into it and why we felt we had the skill sets to sort of, you know, and how, I mean, I always go on about how, you know, I think the most important thing that we have as self-employed real estate brokers is the ability to go in someone's home and talk to them on an even keel and talk about bikes or talk about that thing that makes you relatable.
Sure.
I think you know, music or whatever it would be for me.
Which you're brilliant at.
Well, I think that's it, and you know, I think that's probably the reason you and I are both still actually in the industry and still taking clients and taking younger brokers to do their listing appointments or valuations, whatever you want to call them. I think because we had that ability to talk, and for me, it was always talking. You know, going back to the first podcast, it was about all the ticket sales I used to do at Brixton Academy, day after day, talking to strangers off the bat. And then with you, obviously, doing the white gold and all that stuff.
But don't you find out as well that because you've now done this, when you're out and about, okay, you're not going to be on a bike in that situation. You know, you're out having a coffee or whatever, and you know, you find yourself just talking to random strangers because your and is music, right? And Solly is very well versed across lots of musical stuff, I would call it, right? Beyond, you know, my locked in example of Baby Shambles, and that's probably it, right?
Or their subsidiaries.
But you know, you found music a way of you starting up conversations that will lead to an and give me, how can I get into this person for money? Right, how can I help you sell your house or buy?
Exactly, because the money is not actually how can I get into their money. It's actually, if we don't have listings, we don't have money. So the money is the conversation, because if the conversation goes well, then you're walking out with a handshake, a hug, or whatever it might be. You must introduce you to my entire family because you're amazing, because you've got a motorbike, or because you went to see Radiohead in 1993, or whatever it is, that thing, that relatable thing. That is money. And day after day after day, when I talk to these guys that want to come in and do what we do, you know, I just say to them, do you like talking? A bit obvious. Are you reasonably passionate about real estate? And are you interested in what someone's got to say back to you if you're talking a load of piffle to them? Because you've got to. You actually are the one that always say this on the Academy. People don't listen.
They don't.
And how can you get the trust of someone if you're in their house and they're telling you about how great the house is or whatever it is or what needs to be done? But like when you're buying a car, well, you could do with probably changing the spark plugs or whatever. You know, if you don't listen to that, A, the car you just bought isn't going to work properly, and B, you're not going to know what you're actually trying to market as well in the case of real estate. So talking and listening, I mean, I can't believe I'm even saying this, it's so obvious, but it is the key, I think, to entrepreneurial real estate, because all the data and all the other stuff, that's what the internet's for. Marketing, internet, social media, all that stuff we've spoken about before, that takes care of it.
So is it fair to say, if you're starting out doing this, you know, and maybe you've got a bike, maybe you're into music, maybe you know what your thing is, okay? Yeah. Maybe you love watching EastEnders or whatever.
Or knitting.
Or knitting. You should start honing your skills. Maybe someone in a coffee shop, you sit down and you chat to them, okay? And you learn to speak to them. You learn how to talk, and you learn how to bring in conversations around real estate.
Yeah.
You know, and that you can do now. You can begin your journey doing that. And once you start doing that, you'll then do it automatically and will never stop.
Yeah.
So we do now. I remember, you know, you go out, you do things. If you're talking to someone, being on a train is a good point. You know, if you're on a train, you'll speak to other people on the train about real estate.
Not in London on the tube, though. That's a no-no.
Yeah. But yeah, and anyone can do that, right? So we could tell anyone now, if you're looking to get into this, get your and, as Bianca says so brilliantly. Yeah. Find your and regardless of what it is, because that's something you're willing to talk about. Okay. With me, it's bikes. With you, it's music. Okay? We cross over into little bits, but we'll just stick with them two for the point of this conversation. If someone else is talking about, you know, Barbies or the latest films is a good way. Great topical. Or they play, you know, Rocket League, or they're a footballer, or, you know, whatever example it is. Once they've got that and they've worked out what that is, then the next stage for them is to go out into the big wide world And we know it's scary, right? Because the feedback we get from people is, I don't want to talk to anybody. You know?
I think that's, and please don't take this the wrong way, but I think that's actually more of an estate agent mentality within our industry compared to whatever. So what I'm trying to say is, I think because maybe it's a bit of a rushed, slightly lower fee, maybe there's no incentive so much because we know estate agents get paid at the end of the month anyway. So if they sell, you know, it's less of a big deal. So maybe being scared to talk is kind of okay in that situation. It's simply unacceptable in our world. You just cannot, if you can't talk, you won't make any money. But I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you genuinely believe that you can learn someone how to have the gift of the gab, how to engage? Or do you think it's already in them and then you channel someone who's a great talker into real estate? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, I do this a lot, and I talk about this a lot on the academy. Everything you're going to do, have done, or will do, you already know how to do. All we do is, when we talk to these guys and girls, is we help them bring it out, you know, and bring it up to the top.
Especially on the old clubhouse thing we used to do.
And that's why, you know, we practice that and we do it. And that's why it's important that now they start talking to strangers about property using their hand, because it doesn't matter if they get it wrong. You know, that's a safe zone, but they've got to step outside. They've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. They've got to absorb that inside of them and practice it all the time. There's nowhere you can't practice it. And so what do I mean by practicing it? You know, what is a way of saying practice it? So you're in a coffee shop, you're grabbing a coffee, you know, we're standing, we'll role play this out for the sake of the tape, right? I'll be the agent, you be there. So we're standing, it's in Costa, it's raining outside, right? Little bit, you're a little bit
I'm
pissed.
having pandemic flashbacks.
Yeah, you're a little bit pissed off because you're solly and that's default mould. But I don't know you, right? So the two guys, let's just play it out like this. We're in the coffee shop. You're about to grab your coffee. You know, you look up, you catch my eye. I turn around, I catch your eye and I go, hi, mate, it's really, really, really pissing down, isn't it?
It's bloody horrible out there. I'm not going anywhere.
It says, well, you're planning on standing here for 10 minutes?
Oh, I'm going to stand here whilst my coffee's hot and see what the weather does.
Do you mind if I stand next to you or sit next to you and have a chat?
No, if that's all right. I mean, I'm just going to read the standard, have my coffee and wait for the rain to stop. So.
Can I have a look at the sports pages just for a quick second?
Yeah, I'm just doing the politics, so you can have it.
Fantastic. Who do you play for?
I don't play football.
Oh, sorry, mate. I thought you said you was a footballer. You look like one.
Yeah.
What is it you do for a living?
I'm in finance.
Mate, I'm a real estate agent.
Okay.
You might have heard of us, Nest Seekers. But so just quickly check the paper. I'm having a look. Okay. I've noticed that you haven't made any notes in your paper at all. Is there any reason for that?
Well, no, I'm just skimming through it because I'm just waiting for the weather to go away. Yeah. Why do you ask?
Where am I with it? I'm trying to.
I haven't made any notes.
You haven't. Why would you make notes? Where did that come from?
I don't know, mate.
Okay, but I'll stay with it because guess what? You're allowed to make mistakes, even us practicing on someone that we're in. So you haven't made no notes, is that? Yeah. Okay, was that bit? You go on. So I'm in real estate. I live. I'm not going to tell you where I live because you might.
Never.
Crazy stuff happens.
Never.
I'm in real estate. Have you ever sold a property or bought a property at all before? Sorry, what did you say your name was?
My name's Alan.
Alan, nice to meet you, Alan. My name's Daniel.
Okay.
Nest Seekers. That's what I said a minute ago.
I think
right?
you just said that company.
Yeah, I'm practicing. But listen, I'm going to be truth to you, Alan. Yeah. I've started working for this agency. I've just got into buying and selling. And one of the things they told me to do was to talk to complete strangers. Right,
you're I get the complete stranger. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
That I'm talking to. Yeah. Sorry if I sound a little bit like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'd love to find out about how people feel and act about real estate. And it's raining outside. We've got 10 minutes. I mean, can you be it?
Okay, 5 minutes and that's it. So I'd quite like to read this paper that I said I was going to be reading.
No worries, Alan. That is as simple as it can be to get a journey and a conversation through real estate and into someone that you're with.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
totally.
what people How often should they be doing this? So how often should they be going out and practicing the life skills that they know they have? So they don't need me or you telling them what to do. It's here.
See, that goes back to what I said right at the beginning. Is it in you? And then the real estate bit follows. So you're just plugging into real estate, or it could be cars, or it could be whatever. Or should people go out and practice it and try and become that person? I think that's a really tough one. And it goes a little bit back to what we talk about with the younger brokers that come through, who maybe they're really good at prospecting, doing the data analysis that gets them to a front door, but maybe they don't feel they have the thing that you just mentioned, the chat, the whatever, the ability to go up to someone who's reading their paper in the rain and actually talk and be open and be, genuine, or just have, even just the wherewithal to do it. And so do we think actually the right thing is to go along with them to these listing appointments and show them how it can be done? Or, Daniel McPeake, real estate genius of the last 25 years, do you think people should do what we used to do? Go in, fuck up, come back out, chastened, do it again, maybe fuck up, maybe do better, until they get really good at it, and then they themselves become the person that they should be and how natural they should be in someone else's house. What do you think?
I think everyone can do it. They don't, it's not a gift of the gab thing or something that you can be taught. Everyone can do it. It's the amount of time you practice it and what you do with it. And one of the brilliant things we just did then, we did an example of a conversation going a bit out of the way, and it was a little bit what's going on. That's what happens in real life. Yeah. That's how people talk.
Right when we started this podcast, we were mentioned about this thing we'll take you on Monday, this amazing, huge loft apartment down near Vauxhall. And that was actually a really good example, because if I remember rightly, very early on in our partnership, you went to see the owner of the space that existed, developer. Well, you tell us. But there was a really interesting way that you spoke to him in a way that made him think, and he's a developer of many years, to go from what one plan was to another because of the words that came out of your mouth. Yeah. How did that all come about? Because we're about to be the beneficiary of it again some years later on.
So that had come on the market with a developer. It was a selection of hops warehouses, I think, and this was would be the penthouse. And I met them.
Yeah. Well, they were going to do lots of little tiny ones, weren't they?
I met. I went to see them. He was there. What you here to do, sort of thing. Pretty brash and everything. And then I just had the conversation with him with, what do you think a buyer actually looks like that lives here? Right. If you was to ask yourself, Mr. Developer, who walks through this door, and let me ask you again, why you think that person is going to be the same as you, bearing in mind you've decided what the apartment's going to look like when it's finished, not the person that walks into it. And this is a funky loft apartment. You shouldn't put anything into this. You shouldn't do anything to this. It's beautiful in its natural, raw form. So being an advisor, my advice to you with this is do nothing. Right? Do nothing. I know a guy, Solly. He knows everything there is to know about these types of apartments. Give me 2 weeks. Okay? Just 2 weeks. Yep. We'll either find you a buyer or we won't. What have you got to lose? And he was like, okay.
Yeah. And it should be pointed out that the plus side for him, of course, is not to have to fit out an awkward space at the top of a building, which costs more money than obviously doing all the cookie cutter stuff below it.
Oh, he's going to want people coming, designers are getting involved. Before you know it, there's going to be £1 million spent internally. Total waste of money, because it's not down to them at all. It's not done by them. And worst case scenario, they go get someone, their sister or their brother or someone that's a designer, and totally fuck it up. Yeah. So how did you take this forward? Once I said to you, sorry, you got to get in. Yeah. What happened next?
I'll never forget it. So I walked in and I did exactly what you said. I said, Dan was absolutely right. We got it on pretty well. He was still a little bit skeptical because he's a developer and developers like to develop. Yeah. I said, look, this is a completely unique situation and you're not with best will in the world, you're not the person to develop this particular space. The little 600 square foot and 800 square foot below you. Sorry if this is all a bit agenty, but they're fine. They're easy.
Yeah.
Bomb, 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 bomb. This is so unique and so rare an opportunity that actually you'll probably get something of a premium above just what the sheer space is sort of bank value right now, just for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And we've seen that a lot. You know, with
Yeah.
the post-industrial buildings we've been selling for years, if you just leave them alone, they have more value in their freehold entirety with all the bits hanging off than quite often they do when people do them up to the nines. So that was the mentality I had. I said, look, I'm doing you a favour because you don't have to do anything else. I also know a particular person who I think is an 80% chance on this. He will negotiate hard, but he's really one of the best buyers out there. He's a serial collector of this kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
And, you know, fast forward 6 or 8 months of bit of backwards and forwards. Deal was done. Developer unbelievably happy. Buyer really happy. So happy that he's created this incredible apartment. And where am I going on Monday?
So he's owned it for a period
Lived
of time.
in it. He's created an amazing apartment. Very industrial.
He's had it a few years, right? This isn't something he's tried to spin.
Yeah, well, we did this deal 10 years ago.
Yeah. So this is you going. So this is why we talk about having conversations and getting to know people. Absolutely. And, you know, exploring what we do with everybody wherever we can, whether it starts at a coffee shop or not. You know, Solly's come full circle again in this. And did you say 10 years later, again, now he's been instructed to sell the unit? Yeah,
because in many ways, all the conversations we had back in the day in terms of I was very involved in the buying process as well, because sometimes you just introduce and then you just kind of step back and the legal thing. But this was a really unusual situation. You had a developer who had to completely go off kilter in terms of what their step by step for the building was, and then a buyer who's very demanding and very interesting, whatever, and wanted to do lots of other things to it, and almost became a developer himself. So I was in lots and lots of ... conversations, and I was talking a lot. I had my opinion of it as a loft expert, and I think those conversations and being on a level with these guys, they may be much wealthier than me and whatever, but I not at one point did I feel like I was the lowly agent, or did they treat me as such? And I think that keeps you on a level with someone like that, and that's what client retention is all about. You know, I was comfortable then, so I'm going to be comfortable now in what is now a £9 million apartment or whatever. So he's going to trust me to be comfortable with the next person.
That's pretty much what I was getting to say. You know, out of everyone he could have chose, because it's been a period of time, and who's about. Because it's not because Solly's been around, it's because Solly's experience with this buyer in the beginning,
we stayed in contact,
was so brilliant that it stayed together naturally, and they speak about other stuff and whatever.
And you know what? It is that whole thing. You start off here, and there's me, and there's friendship. There's the client and friendship. And as we get closer and closer and closer, once you get to that level, the trust and everything else, the fact that we become an advisor, we become a friend, we become all of those things. And that's how your business comes back to you year after year after year. The more people you can get to that level with, no matter how you start, and then of course, the more referrals you get, you're starting it up closer together in that sort of, on that friend graph. And you keep building a business, then get to the point where you don't need to prospect, because if you're behaving correctly with someone and you're on a level with them, they want other people to benefit from you.
And I think that's the takeaway for today. Get out, speak to people. If it's in coffee shops, on the bus, wherever, just talk to people, make it happen, make the conversation start, because you don't know where they're going to lead to and where they're going to end up and where they're going to take you over the next 10 years. So thanks for listening. Remember, watch us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. See you later.